In the tunnel. In the tunnel. You're listening to In the Tunnel.
Hello and welcome to In the Tunnel, episode number 35.
That's right. 35, the one before the big one, which is really just us saying we're, by loose definitions, going to be in a studio.
Yep.
And not so much so, it's just going to be like not on two sides of a Skype call. You know, studio.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of a hiatus.
Well, Sean, some of us had 2 grad school projects to do, and unfortunately, we have to prioritize when we're paying our own way on grad school. And yes, obviously work. Sean, being the tech wizard that he is powering all of New York City, and we owe it to him for keeping the lights on in such, a populated city.
Yeah.
I mean, number 2 behind Tokyo, my ass. When Sean's running the 1s and 2s and running the boards, keeping all the technology from getting hacked into by third world countries, we owe it to him.
Yeah, anyway. No, it's just like we both had things come up, so I'm glad we can get to an episode.
Yes, it was getting to the point where it was like, damn, we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah.
And we can't ever let it get to the point where it's gone on so long that we slide away from the project and it just kind of like falls into oblivion.
Right. Yeah.
So we are back to annoy your ears and entertain your ears depending on what you do with your ears. We're not here to judge.
Anyway, as you can see, or if you're listening in, our first topic today is NBA. So let's just get rolling.
Rolling with the NBA.
So
I can sing too.
So you want to do left to right or top and bottom?
These are in no specific order, by the way. I mean, they are the potential matchups, but as I said. So basically, it's like this. You got your, and let's just start with a little. We had bigger plans for this episode, and timing restrictions kind of hindered what we were able to do. We are planning on building off of this one for our next episode. We have a little creative wheel idea that we're going to bring back into this. One which will still be informative because we learned that we can weigh our wheel with, one option weighs a little more than this. We're going to do some math, but come on, it's Friday night. We can't do math right now. Because then that's just called work. Anyway.
Yep.
So we're going to present to you the potential matchups for the NBA, the NHL, all that good stuff. And then we're going to power rank.
Yeah, so I mean, why don't we just start with East first, and what we think of the current teams that are in the playoff picture?
Yeah.
And we can get to specific matchups after that.
Sounds good. All right. So in the East, we got your 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks and your 8 seed Miami Heat. Everybody seemingly forgetting about the Heat being a playoff team and focusing on the fact that Dwayne Wade is playing really good and wants to hang him up at the end of the year, and everybody just wants him to keep playing. Just like, that's fine, but just let the dude do whatever he wants. Then you got, let's see here. You got your 2-seeded Toronto Raptors and your 7-seeded Brooklyn Nets. And there's a little fluctuation between the 6, 7, 8, and 9 in the East. They're all within like 2.5 games of each other. So I'll have to look at the standings a little closer on that one in a minute or two. But the Nets keep fluctuating between 6 and 7. So don't trust that this will be the matchup just yet. There's still time. You got your 3 and 6, which is the Sixers and the Pistons. And you have your Celtics and Pacers matchup, which, I mean, say what you will, the Celtics are kind of on a down year, but the East is the East. And then right now, on the outside looking in are the Magic, amazingly enough, because when you think playoff basketball, just even throwing in the Orlando Magic is just comedy, I guess. And the Charlotte Hornets. And then on the west side, you got number 1 and 8, Golden State and San Antonio. That'll be fun. It's not like we haven't seen that series a million times before. Denver and Oklahoma City. That one actually might be entertaining just because Denver being the good team, that kind of like came out of nowhere last season, or this season. Last season they didn't make the playoffs, I don't believe. Portland is the 3 seed. They just lost their big man Nurkic, which is unfortunate. And the team that everybody thought was going to come out of LA and make the playoffs, the Clippers, the team projected, in the words of Doc Rivers, to not make the playoffs at all. And then they popped champagne in the locker room for, I guess, being in playoff position when they weren't supposed to be, even though they traded away their best player to the Sixers earlier this year.
Right.
All the stuff that makes sense. And then you got your Houston James Hardens versus the 5 seed Utah Jazz, which surprised me that they're the 5 seed, because I just kind of assumed that they were sitting on a lower seed.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
you look at that and you're like, well, even though that the season series is tied 2-2, Houston is a different animal than what the Jazz. Houston shoots a lot, and the Jazz play a different style of game that focuses on just holding the ball longer. And over the course of a series, the Jazz eventually are going to have to play Houston's game, and I don't think that they can.
Right, but I mean, I don't think, like, in basketball, they have, like, some teams have, like, 5 games left. Some teams have, like, 6, 7, I think. Or actually less than that now.
Let's see. Houston's got 6 games left, 3 at home, 3 on the road. Mm-hmm. And Utah's got 7, 4, and 3.
But, so, I mean, I don't see, like, I mean, you might get in the East, you might get the lower seeds kind of shuffling a bit, but I don't really see a change in the teams. At least there's nothing, like, super exciting to be looking at going into the playoffs. Like, could a team squeeze?
We're covering the NBA, Sean. There's obviously nothing super exciting going on.
But I mean,
it's a growing, or it's the most popular sport in the country, and you just have to. Look, I mean, unfortunately for us, more people pick up a basketball than a hockey stick, unless if you're like me, and when the net at the local park is like tied up, and you're like, I know what I'll do. I'll get the hockey stick and I'll bat the net until it comes out of place. Which I did, and now I have part of a basketball net on my dresser. Like a metal chain net.
Oh, okay.
Nailed it. All right. But getting back to the Eastern Conference stuff, if ESPN's stupid site will let me. No, and it didn't.
I mean, it's like, at least just looking at it, right? It's from my point of view, it's good to see the Nets in there. Like, going into the season, I don't think many expected them to be in a playoff spot. Like,
not a chance in hell. No,
I was sure they would improve, but I wasn't. There's no way I would have predicted playoffs at the beginning of the year.
Right. All right. So let's. Speaking of the Nets, let's take a look at that 6, 7, 8, and let's throw in 9, 10, and we're gonna do. So basically, this is all within. In the perspective of games back from the number 1 team in the conference,
right?
Milwaukee, everybody. So In the 6th spot, we had Detroit. They're 18.5 games back. The Nets are the 7th team. They're 19 games back. The Heat are 19.5 games back. Magic are 20 games back, and the Hornets are 21 games back. It's a lot of shuffling that could go on in the later stages. Let's run through a couple more numbers here. The Nets have 6 games left before or at home.
Uh-huh.
Miami's got 7 games left, 2 at home, 5 are away. Detroit's got 7 games left, 4 at home, 3 away. Orlando's got 6 left, 2 home, 4 away. So right there, I don't think Orlando can hang with 4 away games. And I think Charlotte probably gets X'd out because they have 8 games left, but 6 of them are away.
Right, and it's one thing to be out on the outside looking in. It's another thing to control your destiny.
Yeah, and it's, you kind of say, I guess, on a tiny scale, Brooklyn has the least amount of games left of teams that are, in that 6, 7, 8 spot, with having only 6 games left.
Right.
So if they climb above the Pistons for 6th place, that's great and all, but the Pistons probably have the final say in who really gets that one because they have that one last game.
Also, like, the Pistons in 6th place, they're like 2.5 games up, right, on 7? Right?
No, they're half a game up.
They're 18.5? I thought I heard like 16.5. I must be a little out of it.
Detroit is in 6th. They're 18.5.
Okay, so I mean, no,
Brooklyn is 19.
Yeah. So it's pretty close, but I mean, you're looking at teams like, because you have Miami at 19.5, and the rest are below 20, right?
Yeah.
So
20 or below.
Yeah, you're really only worried about that team that's 20 games down if it's technically 2 games out of the 6th place.
Yeah, and it's also a thing of like, for a team like Brooklyn, they're the only one that really wins with getting in the playoffs regardless of seed, because as you alluded to, they're not supposed to be there in a year like this year. They're supposed to be a really bad team that has defied it. All these other teams, they'll get in if they get in the playoffs like they're supposed to, like a Heat or a Detroit, they're supposed to get in as like one of these teams, and then they'll get knocked out in the first round to a team like Milwaukee or something like that. The Nets can lose in the first round and the season be a win.
Yeah,
other teams can't.
It's gonna, like, for the Nets, right? It's a little bit exciting. This is like the only excitement that the NBA is gonna have. They have like have
for
to,
them,
like, win like 3 games, and they're probably in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for the Nets to have won 38 games, for the Nets to have won 38 games, they're 38-38 as we speak. Like, they could lose the next 6 games, and it would be like, you know what? We're building on something here.
Right, and if they make the playoffs, it's just like, yeah, whatever, like, awesome.
Yeah, just the icing on top of the. Well, let's not call it cake. We'll call it a cupcake because it's a small win. But
yeah, okay, they can have icing on their cake if they win a round.
Yeah, but no candles. It's not your birthday.
No. But that's
Dr. J hasn't come in with a lighter and said happy birthday and started singing or anything. Although that's more of a Jay-Z thing, if I had to guess.
Yeah, but like, coming back to the NBA, right? Like, the Nets are probably like, they're the winners out of whatever happens for their season. The rest of the teams, like, if the Heat drop or the Pistons drop from their seed right now, it's a definite loss. And even then, like, getting in at like 6th, 7th, or 8th is not what they wanted.
So I'd like to offer up maybe, and I want to check with you on this comparison. Would you say that the Nets this year are kind of like the New Jersey Devils last year, where it was kind of like last year, you were saying like you thought that maybe the process would have taken longer to get into the playoffs, and then is like, well, maybe if we build on something, and you kind of saw where the Devils, like this year wasn't really a great year. And I could see Brooklyn kind of taking that same turn to what the Devils were this year, next year, and being like, thinking that they had something to build off of. And then it's like, well, they didn't really do anything with, if the Nets don't do anything with a roster movement and they don't like keep D'Angelo Russell, then next year could be like this downward turn.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this year's run could be attributed to something like a Devils run, but I mean, I think there's at least a difference in how they have to approach the offseason versus how the Nets did or had to at the time. Again, I don't necessarily think the Nets did good in the Devils did good in the offseason or anything like that, and it's a product of how the season went, along with injuries and stuff like that. But we're not getting into that.
And poor coaching.
But I mean, I think that even if the Nets, like, as long as the Nets don't go back to having an 8-win season or whatever it was, they're still on the right track.
Yeah.
Because, like, you are down in the dumps. You can't get any worse.
Who could ever forget one of their last years in New Jersey where they, like, started the season, like, 0-16 or something?
Yeah.
They were going to, like, break the NBA record for, like, longest start without a win.
Yeah, but so I just think that the proceeding to this situation is a little different. Right? Yeah. Because they've been so bad for so long that this is a welcome surprise that I wouldn't be so surprised, nor would I call the season a failure if they did quite a bit worse next year.
Well, right now they're matched up potentially against the Raptors, and they do have a win against the Raptors. And let's see. One of their losses was only by 2 points to the Raptors too. The other one was by 17 points.
Yeah, I mean,
they might be able to hang with the division foe like the Raptors. They won't win that series, but if they can make it interesting, that'll be something.
Seriously, win a game or two, and you're like, you've done your job.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, at least, and that's my opinion on the Nets going into next season. Like, I would still have them as an underdog going into the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised, depending on what the moves they make, if they got a little bit worse.
Yep, Brooklyn Ballers, man. Just have fun with it while you can.
Yeah.
And to the other teams in the 6, 7, and 8 slots, just to let you know, Milwaukee is leading the regular season series against Miami 3-1. And the 76ers have a 3-1 over the Pistons.
Okay.
So take that for what it's worth. Like I said.
But I mean, these three matchups are the ones that can change pretty quickly.
Yeah, it is. But I think regardless of opponent, these 3 teams probably don't make it past the first round.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd want to see something competitive.
I would love to see something competitive, Sean.
Yeah, we can get to the competitive stuff in the next part.
I'm all in.
Yeah, so you want to hit the West now?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I feel like we should do that.
Yeah, so, I mean...
By the way, I'm rooting for Sacramento to somehow sneak in.
Alright, man. I mean, they're on our graphic, but...
No, they're not.
Oh, no, they're not. Jeez. I can't see. I'm not looking at the graphic screen. Sorry.
Oh, never mind. They're the 9th spot, but they're 37-38. In the 8th spot, San Antonio, 44-32. So that's not happening.
Not happening. Sorry.
It's a shame too, because Sacramento actually wasn't a laughing stock this year.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like, I think there's a clear discrepancy in quality of mid-tier teams in both, like, between the conferences.
I don't know. Sean and I talked about this earlier this week. How it was so funny that D'Angelo Russell ended the Lakers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, trade the guy away and watch him come back. Of course, 2 years later, that's exactly how trades work out. Is you lose them 2 years later.
Yep.
Just nail in the coffin.
Yep.
Suck on that, LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. See, but going back to my point of mid-tier teams, right? Like, you have a clump of 5 teams in the East, right, vying for 3 spots, and then in the West, like, all teams are decided. There's no team that's changing. I mean, I don't have the standings right in front of me, so the matchup might change, but I'm still fairly.
I think there's a lot in
consistent.
the West that's pretty much decided. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
well, maybe not so much. Hold on a second here. So San Antonio is 44-32, sitting in the 8th spot. Oklahoma's 44-31 in the 7.
all right,
And
just about
LA
half a game.
LA is 45-31 in the 6, and Utah's 45-30 in the 5. So those 4 teams could mix it up a little bit, but
yeah,
it's top heavy and bottom heavy again.
Those are like all 4 matchups though. But I mean, none of them are losing their playoff spot, so they really like. I mean, if I were any of those teams, you probably want the 4 seed. But aside from that, I don't think anybody cares.
Yeah, not really.
Because I wouldn't want to face any of the top 3 teams anyway.
I think that's more of an East problem than a West problem, though.
Yeah, but still, I think it's still pretty defined that if I was in the situation of the West, I would want the 5 seed. No question. And then if I didn't get the 5 seed, then I wouldn't really care because it's a pretty tough matchup, any of them. But in the East, it's more I'd want to make the playoffs if I'm in that bottom instead of caring about the matchup. Which I think makes for a more interesting end of the season.
I agree.
Yeah. Anything else to say? Aside from anything about the Lakers, or we can talk about the Lakers if you want.
I just want to say kudos to you for naming this episode "Long Hiatus." I think that's brilliant.
Hey, I didn't even ask you for a name this time.
Yeah, our creative process is basically us just like talking to each other, like, shit, man, I don't have one.
Yeah. Anyway,
and bam, creativity strikes.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about, basketball wise?
Well, let's see here. So if we were to stand, as it were, in these regular season matchups, the Spurs have a 2-1 lead over the Warriors in the season series. Take that for whatever it's worth.
But then you have to factor in the Golden State Warriors playoff buff.
Yeah, but it's also a Golden State Warriors team that's lost over 20 games.
Yeah, true.
Which is like, oh, the horror! They've lost over 20 games. Like,
they've lost a quarter of their season, man.
Whereas, like, last 3 years, they lost, like, 19 games.
They've lost
it's like, oh, the horror, they lost, like, 4 more games. They must be on a down year. Yeah. Denver has 1 game left against Oklahoma City, but they're up 3-0 in that series. Portland's up 3-1 on the Clippers. And amazingly enough, the more interesting regular season matchup of the 4 is it's a 2-2 tie for Houston and Utah.
Okay.
So might I say, Houston and Utah shaping up to be the must-watch series of the NBA playoffs.
Right.
Just as everybody has always said, give me a little Grayson Allen, a little Mormon country, and let's get the NBA playoffs started. That's definitely how every fan in every household talks about the first round of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Let's get the Mormon magic started.
Yeah, no.
Give me Mitt Romney courtside mocking Russell Westbrook again.
Okay.
Like he did last year. That was funny.
Okay.
All
right. Yeah, so I mean, I think that covers basketball pretty well.
Again. By the way, do you remember how many teams for our hypothetical college tournament actually made the field? Did we say?
No, we didn't. We can have that stat for next week.
All right. So we're gonna guesstimate on how much it was because we did look through the numbers, like a week or so ago. I think we had like 10 of our teams out of 60, or it was like 10 or 11 of our 64 teams, or 68 teams, actually made the actual NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but the bracket was completely...
Still,
yeah.
that's not bad. Kudos to the wheel. The wheel had 20%. To pick. Well, the wheel had over like 200 options.
Right, and it got 20% right. So, hey.
Exactly. Shout out to all the student athletes. We're getting paid just like you are. All right, moving right along.
All right, yeah. So let's hit the NHL up. So, first we got what the matchups would look like right now.
Yeah. Oh, can I tell a quick NHL or not NHL but hockey story? So my kickball league, we had the playoff game yesterday, and one of the dudes on the other team, you always get like the really loud dude who's like trying to pump up the team. So theirs is playing third base, and he's going, "Let's go, boys! Let's go, boys!" And he's like, and then he just yells, "Yeah, that's some hockey talk." And like three of us from the ball hockey league that we used to do are on the team I'm on, and we're like, we all come to him and we're like, "Yeah, we were in a hockey league. That's not hockey talk just to say the word boys." So apparently he thinks that we were in a fake, or like not hockey league, because it was like floor hockey instead. It's like, wait, yeah, we didn't shoot into a net or anything.
How do you like but the fees to play like ice hockey down there must be a lot more than around here.
Yeah, it's like $10 for a pickup.
Yeah, but I mean like the equipment and all that.
Oh yeah, there's no way that. I mean, it's just a lot of equipment to put on for. Imagine the amount of people playing hockey in a town like Wilmington. There's only like one rink.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, ever since they took away jelly beans, oh god.
All right, so let's get into the matchups. Huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so as of now, it's looking like it could be Tampa Bay, Columbus, Boston, Toronto is Boston, Toronto is definitely set in stone, in my opinion.
Boston and Toronto, yeah, probably.
Then you got right now Washington and Carolina, and then New York Islanders and Pittsburgh.
We can take them.
Then you have Winnipeg, Dallas, and Nashville, St. Louis. I'm pretty sure that one's set in stone. And then you have Calgary, Colorado, and San Jose, Vegas. If that ends up being the matchup, it should be a pretty good rivalry kind of thing.
Who would have thought that St. Louis would be in the playoffs? The way that they started the year.
Yeah, I know, right?
Absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And here's the crazy thing. You said that St. Louis and Nashville is pretty much locked in. The Blues lead that regular season series 4-1-0.
Yeah, I know. Oh.
It's like the whole reason why the Blues are in the playoffs is because they beat Nashville.
But I mean, pretty early on in the season, that thing was not looking.
Well, they didn't. Yeah, well, trust me. I mean, based off of historical trends, it's gonna not look so hot in a few weeks. They just choke in the playoffs.
Oh boy, yeah. So I mean, I think Tampa has a pretty easy matchup. I don't know. They've just been too good. I don't see them, at least in the first round, slowing down.
Yeah,
but
I think it'll build on them eventually. Because you also have to remember, this is the easy sports take kind of thing. It's the Columbus haven't won a series in their existence thing too.
Yeah, but
and then you put them up against the President's Trophy winners. Like, what a draw that one was.
Yeah, but I mean, even though like the President's Trophy has not really won the Stanley Cup, I think they'll falter against the second round, not the first.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying is. President's Trophy curse doesn't take impact really until like the second round.
Because then you're actually playing
First
maybe
round
in the second team.
Yeah, first round is you're still too close to the regular season for the curse to slow you down.
Right.
You've still been playing.
Yeah.
It's when you start to get like the 2 weeks versus one team and you kind of lose track of the other teams kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I just think it'll be easy for them. But that Toronto and Boston matchup should be a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah, it'll be a great one to watch.
Yeah, if your team's not going to make it, but you're like just a big hockey fan, that's a good one. That's a good one. If you're a Duke or UNC basketball fan who was enamored with the possibility of them playing in the title game against each other, well, about a week after that, when you finally come out of your coma and realize that, well, because UNC lost tonight, that's not going to happen. After you come out of your, I guess, fascinated hibernation chamber, watch this series instead.
Fascinated hibernation chamber, I like it.
It was just when the dream wears off and the season's already over.
Yeah, I mean, then you have the Metro, which none of the matchups are technically in there yet.
Yeah, not locked in because the Islanders and up until tonight the Penguins were still close to the Washington. But Washington just keeps keeping the Islanders and Penguins like a handful away.
Yeah, I just think
nothing's clinched, but it will be in a few days at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's definitely the number one in my opinion. Like, I just don't see them. There's like 5-6 games left in the season. Like, they're not dropping enough games to lose.
Yeah, they'll probably win in like 6 to Carolina if they have to pull Carolina.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing, right? The bottom 2 seeds are not even locked yet. Like, close to it. There's still a race. So,
but I do think that their better competition for an upset would be Carolina versus Columbus.
Yeah, I mean,
only because I can't take Columbus seriously anymore.
Fair enough.
I mean, well, you think that I'd be amazed if Columbus took one game against the Lightning.
Nah, see, I don't think they'll like fall over and die.
I'm not saying that they will. I'm just saying that there's a clear talent differential.
Yeah, but you can't say that, like, even though I think the series will be like a walk in the park for Tampa, I'm not going to say they win it in 4, no problem.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm suggesting 5.
I think Columbus takes one game, either of the
series. Yeah, if they win more than one game, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, okay, and I'm there
then. The Columbus that gets swept is like a 2012 thing.
Yeah.
They've made such progress.
I mean...
And then they'll say goodbye to the bread man. Panarin will be gone.
And then Bobrovsky too, right?
Well, Bobrovsky's basically been gone.
Yeah, I mean...
Dismissed from the team, back on the team. You might as well just not play for the team.
I mean, to be fair, they picked up Kincaid. They haven't played him since they picked him up, so he's still on the team.
He's just there in case Bobrovsky pulls like a Brizgalov and just goes apeshit crazy.
Oh, don't want to be there for that one.
Oh, no one wants to be in Columbus for that long anyway.
Anyway, so let's what do you think about like if the matchup would be Jets, Stars, and Nashville, St. Louis?
I mean, Dallas is like the Minnesota Wild most years, where it's like they'll be in the middle of the pack, but once it comes time for playoffs, you can't take them seriously. I mean, like, even the Coyotes have made a conference final more recently. The Dallas Stars have. Dallas is like, good on you for having Ben and Sagan again, I guess, but if you get past the second or first round, you're not getting past the second round.
Yep.
That's just history repeating itself. San Jose and Vegas.
We're talking Nashville, St. Louis.
Oh, my bad. See, ESPN's got this thing where like it goes back and forth on me, and I just created that stuff, to make it look nice and formal without really, a directional flow to it, Sean. But yeah, let's go counterclockwise, I guess. Nashville.
I don't know how you got that direction, but sure.
Well, I mean, you know what, Sean? Let's just get into the story time, huh?
Yeah.
So Nashville has a 4-point lead. It's an interesting one. Again, it's St. Louis and the plausibility of, like, can you envision them going far? Can you envision them going to a second round? I think that Nashville's got too much defense on them.
I think that the series is close, but I think Nashville's going to win it.
I'll give Nashville in 6.
Yeah. But that's a close series.
I feel like I say in 6 for most series.
Yeah, but that's a close series. Like,
yeah, it would have to be like everybody's balance for me to pick someone in 7.
Yeah.
And there's just not enough like balance for it to be 50-50 there.
Yep.
All right. So now we're going to go San Jose and Vegas.
Sure.
So San Jose's got 5 more points. It's a 95-90.
This series,
ESPN did a great job of just not. It just says regular season series. It shows the scores. They did not put in parentheses what the series lead was. So I'll do the work for you, ESPN. Let's see. Vegas up 1-0, and then San Jose 1-1. And all right, so Vegas is up 2-1-0 in the series.
Right.
Was it really that hard, ESPN? You couldn't do like 2 minus 1?
So this is the series I want to go 7 games because I think.
Oh yeah.
I think
both teams have the gaps for it.
I think it can, and I think it would be great for that area to have a 7-game series in the first round, and because those two teams are close by.
Yeah, I don't think it's a full blown. I don't think it's full blown rivalry yet either. So I think it could start one.
Oh yeah, and that's
if you get enough tenacity and toughness in there. A little Ryan Reeves action. One Ryan Reeves hit can lead to a rivalry.
Yeah, so I mean that's my series going 7 pick.
All right, and that's your West series going 7.
Yep.
I think you'd agree with me when you said Boston, Toronto could probably go the distance in the East.
Yep.
And then the Avalanche have decided that it was time to stop sinking, time to start swimming, and have popped their heads back up into a final spot.
Yeah.
And they're going to play the Flames.
My problem is like when you have like McKinnon,
hypothetically
Mikko
speaking,
Rantanen, and like so many other
Landeskog,
so many other talented players, like you're barely scraping a playoff spot right now.
Especially with they play a 3-on-3 format in the All-Star game, and they had 3 All-Stars, where no team other than them had 2.
No, San Jose did.
Oh yeah, hosting team doesn't count.
And then McKinnon wasn't playing, right?
No, he was the coach, but he still wore the jersey.
Yep.
By the way, when the Pirates hosted an All-Star game in 2006, they somehow scraped the barrel and got 2 All-Stars despite the fact they lost like 110 games. So like host team does not count on an All-Star like stat sheet.
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, I don't really have much to say about that one. I think Calgary's just playing better.
Calgary's come out of nowhere too.
No, but
I know that they made the playoffs a few times in the last few years, but this is way different.
Yeah, no, but they've been playing really well, and then Giordano's been amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just see them winning. It might go 6, but 5 or 6 games, no 7.
Yeah, just because of how inconsistent Colorado's been this year.
Yep. All right, so you want to hit our power rankings?
Yeah, so it's power ranking season.
All right, so if you can see, we have we decided to power rank our top 10 teams for NBA and NHL going into the playoffs. So
yeah, because it's like the Olympics where you combine everything, except that's not how the Olympics works. So we decided we're going to combine them and do our own thing, and dear God, that purple does not look good on the screen.
But anyway, let's just take the top 2 and talk about them together because we actually matched.
unanimous. We're like the AP and the USA Today for college rankings.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay Lightning, they're just too good. I think they have the most wins out of any team in both sports.
Yeah, which is wildly impressive because in basketball, you don't get that third column with overtime losses.
Right.
You just get losses. And Tampa Bay still is dominating.
Right. So I don't think you could put another team up there out of these two. And then Milwaukee's just the better NBA team.
Yeah, I mean, you have to admire what they've built.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Giannis, I think I saw on the highlights this morning, he was a little limpy, so we'll see how long they stay in the 2 spot on the power rankings. But for right now, there we go.
Yeah. So hey, 3 is where we differ. We're both in the NBA, but you chose Toronto and I chose Golden State.
Yes, I did. So let's see. I have to pull up our NBA stats here. Hold on, a little elevator music here. And I really hope that you enjoy the music I just brought to you, sponsored by my mouth. Anyway, so Toronto is 53-23, and you had Golden State 51-23. So I think I just took the fact the 2 extra wins, and I was like, well, Golden State is on that sliver of a down year compared in Toronto. They've hung around this area for the last few years, much like Golden State has in their respective conference.
Right.
But I decided to choose Toronto just based on, they traded away DeRozan, brought in Kawhi, traded for Marc Gasol, and they're still doing what they keep doing.
Right, and I chose Golden State mostly because, I mean, their records are pretty similar. Golden State's played 2 less games, but they just get a playoff buff. They just do better.
Yep. Golden State but Golden State's kind of fluctuating for number 1 and number 2 in their conference too.
Right, but I don't really think it matters.
All I'm saying is, someone's within reach.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know.
True. Yeah. All right. So, and the 4th, we both went to NHL, but we still chose different teams.
Yeah. So I mean, Boston had that long streak of, at least getting a point where they didn't lose in regulation for seemingly forever, and they're still playing really good hockey, even though that streak has since ended. I think I want to say 10 days ago.
Right. So,
and it's just a shame. I mean, if Tampa wasn't on this absolute tear this year, Boston probably overtakes a Tampa team in the standings that doesn't look like it's on HGH. So it's just, it could be a lot more competitive in the standings. It's just you can't have 2 beasts like that in one division.
Right. And
so
I was looking at Boston, but I felt like if I put Boston up there, I'd have to put the Maple Leafs somewhere on this list. Because I think that matchup is going to be a long one, 6-7 games. So I couldn't justify throwing both of them up there. And I think Calgary's just been on too much of a tear to ignore this list.
I think we also look at power rankings a little bit differently. I think I look at it with a little bit what have you done for me lately kind of approach. And you kind of took an overall look.
Yeah, I mean, and I also try to think how if they go to the playoffs a lot, how will they perform in the future? I don't just try to base it off of what's been done in the recent future. Yeah, but I do think
see.
I know you have Calgary a little lower, but I do think that those 2 teams are pretty close. I would put the Boston at the lower end of my list, like 8 to 10. But I could see why you put them up there.
Yeah. See, my only thing with Calgary and why I set them lower is because in comparison to a team that has put on the big show like Tampa this year, is Calgary is not on that same level. So I feel Boston hanging around in the same division warranted a little bit more, and Calgary standing out in a weaker Western Conference. I had to acknowledge that the conference was a little bit lesser.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like with the way that when we were talking about the matchups earlier, when I looked at it, I was like, if I put Boston there, well, Toronto's not that far behind, so where am I going to put them? And I couldn't really justify them in the top 10. So
that's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let's continue to number 5, and we're still keeping with the same league but different teams. So you have Denver, and I have Toronto. So for me, Toronto drops from your 3 to my 5, and it's Denver's first time on this list.
Well, because Denver has kind of flip-flopped with the Warriors on who's going to take first place. I think there's been a few times in the past couple of weeks where it's like they were tied for first place in the West. So for me, that speaks to, well, if they're tied, then there's no one that, or neither of the two is out front enough for me to put them in my top 3 spots, because they both kind of deserve a middle of the top 10.
Okay.
I think I've justified my argument enough.
Yeah, and then I just have Toronto slipping a little bit because even though they're like doing really well, I just feel that like the 2 NHL teams I've put up there are just that good, and then you got to put Milwaukee at the top, and then it's basically, I think Golden State and Toronto are actually like pretty close. I don't rank Denver as high, but we'll get to that.
I think you just smell a Nets upset coming soon.
Good luck with that one.
Definitely where we're going with this. You power rank based on the future.
Yeah, so I mean, and then I want to see like, okay, they get where they get, but how do they perform in the first round? I wasn't like, even though they're gonna win, I assume, I wasn't really sure their performance really. All right, so 6, right? And we're still staying with the same league. You have Calgary, which is from my number 4 to your number 6, and I have Winnipeg entering this for the first time.
Yeah, I already justified my take on Calgary. So let's go to your Winnipeg thing.
Right. So I couldn't really, in my opinion, I can't really justify a Metro team coming in from the East to this list, because the Metro is such a crapshoot. Like, everybody's still so close. The only one to have clinched is Washington, and it's barely, in my opinion.
Yeah, I might have to amend my list.
Right. So like, I wanted to, like, I do think the West has a little bit more top heavy in the balance. Like, you have Calgary, Winnipeg, and Nashville as like your West top teams, whereas you have Tampa, then the rest for the East. It's like clear. So I do think Calgary's a step above them, but I do think Winnipeg and Nashville are fairly close. They're in the same division, so that justifies my number 6 and 7.
All right. So I'll move on to
your
7.
Number 7.
So we have a mix up here, the NBA. So again, I said, the Warriors, I had them mixed in the between 5 and 7 because of the flip flopping with the Nuggets. You had Nashville coming out of the NHL as your 7.
Yep. So yeah, again, I think we both justified why we put our teams there. Like, Winnipeg for me is above Nashville in the standing, so they do deserve the higher spot. But I do feel like they're pretty close.
All right, number 8.
And
no,
just
go ahead.
before, Bridgestone Arena is a hard building to play in, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really hard to play hockey when there's fish crawling all over the ice. Anyway, number 8. I had the Islanders, you had the Nuggets. So my thing is just the Islanders kind of came out of nowhere starting in like January and just poured it on in the past month and a half. So I just had to give props, even though they're second in the Metro.
Okay. I mean, I had the Nuggets. I have to put them on this list because they are flip-flopping with Golden State. I guess I inherently give Golden State the benefit of the doubt, and I haven't, as much as I've been paying attention to basketball, I haven't really heard nor seen much from them, and I don't know how to base them going forward, even though they're doing pretty good right now. So that's why I didn't put them a little higher.
I'm okay with that, Sean. We'll forgive you on that one.
All right, so number 9, we're back with the same league. You have the Los Angeles Clippers, and I have the 76ers.
Yeah, so the Clippers, if I'm correct, and
we don't know about that one.
Well, no. I think they've won. Well, yeah, we don't know if I've ever been correct. That's more like my mother thing. They've won like 11 of their last 13, something like that. They just had a 6-game win streak snapped, and I think before that they had like another 5 or 6 game streak. So, they've been rolling lately. Just for me, like enough. I said, I'm more a little more what you've done for me recently thing. So, just that.
Right, and I think I put Philly there because
you took the sustainability.
Yeah, it's really sustainable. Like, even though they'll be playing more games in the playoffs, they haven't really faltered at it majorly at any point in the season. So there's no reason they couldn't keep the kind of thing up and get far.
Yeah. And what was it at number 10? A Penguins fan? No, I'm changing it.
Okay.
I gotta give it to the Capitals because they've kept the Metro runner-ups, the Islanders and Penguins, at bay.
Okay.
They've basically stiff-armed the 2 and 3 seeds in the division and said, "Look, we respect what you're doing, but
you're playing each other in the playoffs. I don't care."
They're like the person, you guys smell, just stay a few feet away from me.
Yeah, and I put San Jose. I was really debating which team to put here because this is I would have let Boston or sneak up here. Here I would put Boston, Toronto, San Jose, or Vegas because those are those are my clump teams for the NHL. In the NBA, I'd have the middle tier teams from the West because the East is just bad. But this is where I'm gonna say the teams are kind of meshing together in their power, and really I feel like any of the teams from the middle tier from the West of the NBA and the West in the NHL could have fit this. Ended my rankings. It just so happened to be San Jose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that San Jose has a few more holes than some other teams, but if we're looking at both leagues as intertwined, but I can see where San Jose does fit. They've kind of been sustainable for the most part this year as well.
Yeah.
And again, host team all-stars don't count. So before you go throwing that 3 all-stars thing in.
Don't worry. I'm not saying anything.
All right, good. Not triggered at all.
All right, so any closing remark?
Looking forward to doing a show next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not going to be telethon length, but hopefully we'll have some good stuff and a better episode filled with. Not to say that this episode's bad, by the way, because it's not. And if you made it this far, then kudos to you because, well, I think I wanted to fall asleep, not so much because of what we've said in this episode, but just we started recording it late. Anyway, getting back to the point at hand, though, I think we're both going to try to deliver a little bit of a longer episode that if we have to break it up into pieces, we will.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it'll just be higher quality. And looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
Been a while since we've been in the same room.
Oh yeah, can't wait. And it'll be good to have like an episode where we're face to face.
Yeah, I feel like it's only going to get cornier.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.